Hello everyone, I am Ricardo Laganaro, director of The Line and also Chief Storytelling Officer at Árvore, and I'm here to talk with Ruben Feffer, the composer and the creator of the soundtracks for our piece The Line. Hi Binho.
Hello.
How are you, my friend?
Hi Ricardo. I'm fine. I'm very happy to do this with you. Thanks a lot for the opportunity.
Thank you, my friend. Now we are doing this talk because we are going to launch the soundtrack of The Line, 9 beautiful tracks that will be available on Spotify, and we wanted to talk more about how was the creative process behind these tunes, and this is something that usually we don't talk a lot, right? The creative part just focused on the soundtrack, and I think it's so beautiful, and people love so much everywhere we show the piece that it was a good opportunity to talk a little bit more about this specific part of our piece. So let's begin and discuss with the beginning. How was for you, and how was the first meeting with this project and with us, and thinking how you could work in this piece?
Great. I was just thinking, I just love all of your invites. If you invited me for anything, I'm in, because it just started with your invite.
It's Mutis, my friend.
Yes. Oh, I think it's because of the relationship we already had with Rodrigo Terra as well, and other people working there. But it was very nice because for a long time I wanted to get more involved, both with VR and with Árvore. So this was an amazing opportunity. And when you guys, you received us at your old company headquarters, and you guys were ready for moving, right? So it was full of packaging.
The ending
all
of
over.
A lot of boxes everywhere, right?
You didn't know what was packaging and what was an art installation.
Exactly.
And then suddenly you talk about The Line and all, and you show me that first prototype. And on that first prototype, which was just like a loop of the bike track running on this mountain, kind of mini model of São Paulo, which was just this mountain.
Yes.
And the two amazing things were, upon first contact on that, and we actually entered inside the model because there were no boundaries. So
yes.
Being fully immersed in that super lo-fi wireframe design and feeling the emotion of the toy-like quality of this world, and listening to your reference soundtrack, which was a Chorinho by Pixinguinha.
Yes.
Which already, just that little sound, it says, we are in São Paulo. Nothing in the visuals said, we are in São Paulo.
You're
but
right.
Listening to that sample, we already said, we are in São Paulo. So even before everything, this was the first thing we knew. I mean, we knew that we had the Chorinho in that. And Chorinho would be our conductor, would be the guiding sound to guide us on that storytelling.
And it's funny because Chorinho is not a very well-known rhythm outside of Brazil, I think, right? People always think in Brazil in samba and bossa nova, maybe, but Chorinho not, right?
Yes, I had delved in the previous project with Chorinho because it was a short film called Guida, which won lots of awards. And it was also inspired on a Chorinho by Pixinguinha. So it probably was somewhere in my imagination as well. But I'm not a Chorinho specialist. I'm a keyboard player, and usually Chorinho is for the guys who play guitar or flute. But I know, I love a lot of that sound. I know it's part of our musical DNA, let's say, in Brazil.
Yes, I agree.
You would listen to that in perhaps some TV shows or old radio stuff. And I always been fascinated with old radio stuff. So the Line experience has a lot of that old radio stuff. Remember, we talked right in the first beginning of having maybe an advertisement or something like that, using those old voices. And Chorinho was something that was there all the time.
Cool. Can you explain very simply, in a simple way, what is the main difference between Chorinho and samba for the ones that doesn't know? Is it easy to explain that?
Let's try. I think Chorinho Samba has the African influence very, very strong. Chorinho predates that in a way, and Chorinho comes more from the early forms of jazz, and even has some of the old music from like classical music. It has a kind of a baroque quality to it. It has very virtuosistic performances. Samba is more about the percussion. Chorinho is more about the melodies and the counter melodies, and it's like a bicycle track. It's like something that weaves in and out. And Chorinho means the small cry, yes. And it's actually, it makes you laugh at many points. Chorinho is a bittersweet kind of music.
Yes, perfect.
Samba is more goes more up, yeah. Uplifting. Bossa Nova will be more laid back, and Chorinho is kind of deals in the middle of all that, and it makes you laugh and cry at the same time. It can be very touching because it has a very it's not mellow, but I mean it's very intimate. It's intimate sounding like Bossa Nova, but at the same time it can be very lively, kind of like Minueto from Bach, for instance. So it's very interesting. It's very versatile. Very flexible.
Flexible, yes. Well, I love it. I love it, the answer, because it relates a lot with some of the decisions we had later, and some of the music that we chose to like be together with the Chorinho.
Yeah.
Because of your explanation, I understand better now why they worked so well together. Maybe it would be harder if we were using maybe the samba or other rhythms, right?
Yeah. It would not be so intimate feeling.
And also the mixing with Ba and other reference that you brought later, right?
Yes, because remember, right in the beginning, we did that research. We did that document with lots of research and all kinds of references and kind of the story of that. There's a timeline of music in history, and the way that one thing kind of morphs or gives offspring, gives birth to other things. So Baroque would give birth to Chorinho, kind of, and Chorinho would give birth to something more like samba, perhaps. And on the other hand, you will have something like jazz. So you have, on the other branch of that tree, you could have something like classical music, like Baroque music, going more to jazz territory, and then going into like super tonal music that's something like atonal, actually, right? So you will not have it's kind of everything sounds crazy, and we actually use all of that as we talk about the line.
Cool. So now let's dive into the musics, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So the first one is not a Chorinho yet, because we were inside that first part of the experience that you have the book and everything is blacked. So it's like an intro, like Prelude, right? And to put people in the mood that we are in a fairy tale. And we wanted something to do that, and then you brought some references, and then we began to work on it. And if you guys are listening this interview, I would recommend you to open your Spotify, and then go there and search for The Line original soundtrack, and then listen a little bit of this song that's called Once Upon a Time.
Once Upon a Time.
It's the first music of the album. And then you'll be able to understand better what we are going to talk about. And then we'll ask you always to listen a little bit to the songs. But go ahead.
I think Once Upon a Time is really what it's about, because we needed something to put you in the mood, first of all, to take you off your reality here and go into this make-believe reality where anything could be possible. So it's like of the blank slate. Actually, it's a dark slate, but it's it's like a blank slate. And so it will wipe out everything. And we had this reference, which was very clear, that Amélie Poulain soundtrack was something that was very beautiful, the way that they used the vaults, and something that just kind of lullaby, like it lulls you into that reality, and it makes you feel cozy. You kind of feel cozy with that feeling, and you feel ready to feel wonder, And then when you begin to that time, you actually begin to move because you're sitting down in the experience. So I think it's a way to break out of reality. I think that's what we managed there. And it's very interesting because we that song, we already knew that we wanted something kind of like Amélie Poulain, but we didn't have any idea where to go exactly. And then I just had this feeling, I said, oh, I remembered I wrote this song in piano long time ago. And I told you, I said, my God, I have this song that I wrote a long time ago. It's one of the rare occasions where I just write something and don't use it in a project. It's just something that I play like just for fun on the piano. And it was with me all, it's kind of followed my life, you know, it's old inspiration.
Wow.
And it was just there. And I thought, my God, that could be perfect. And we just developed it a bit to carry the whole story.
Wow, this is amazing. And it's very nice because for me as the director, I for all VR narratives, I always think it's very important to have this separation stage. I call that, and that people has to forget the physical world. And then you brought this that was fit like a perfect fit for this moment. And then this is not still like part of the story, but it's the beginning of the experience for real. And people then there is the moment that people begin to change their mindset. And then after that, they're open and ready to really feel the emotions that we want to evoke with the story. Right?
Yeah. It's kind of like something that envelops the story, both in the beginning and in the end. It just kind of frames it.
Yes.
So we have a reprise of that in the end. We'll get there.
Then after that, the user or the player stand up and like cross the door and turn on the light, pulling the cord. And then the first time the user and everyone sees São Paulo, the scale model and the character. And then, because we are in São Paulo in the 40s, we have the second soundtrack, The Line. So it's a good moment to listen to that. But then you can talk about the story of our chorinho that we had like for the experience.
If you have ever done this experience, you will, just by listening to this second track, you will remember the experience for sure. The first track maybe not, because it's not so connected to the experience. But The Line is the main theme that we have, and it has repetition built into its concept, because the story has repetition built into its concept. So it can be tedious, it's on the verge of being tedious, and you have minute changes, but it cannot be that interesting because you have to talk about a reality that's actually monotonous. So in the first time you discover it, nice, and then as it becomes the repetition, the monotony begins to happen. So it's something that it deals with both that joyful feeling or bittersweet feeling, but fun, kind of with fun, I mean light feeling that chorinho evokes, but at the same time it has lots of repetition built into it.
Yeah, it's funny
because thing that goes round and round.
I think it was very hard for you to find the right tone, because we want to show that for Pedro, the character, this was a good thing, the monotony and the routine, but we had also to give a hint and a guess for the user and the spectator that this routine wasn't making him happy. So it's a different balance to have, right?
Yes.
And this
I think the user goes through that, because the first time you have it, you just feel the new. It's the first time you're dealing that, but then as it begins to repeat, the feeling comes naturally.
Yes.
I think this is we're not talking about the feeling, we're actually feeling that feeling.
Yeah,
and that the song is making that happen. I have to give a very good thanks and kudos to Gilson Fukushima, which was my writing partner on this project, writing partner and producer, and the line theme is totally his actually. I just talked to him a lot, and we were talking, and he said, I have this theme. It was already something that he had already previously and he had never used, and it was just perfect, and we just fine-tuned it and made it fit perfectly.
I remember the first time you just sent me like this part that he had, like was very simple yet, but the melody was already there and it was very beautiful.
Yes.
I said, let's go for it. And then you guys made it.
It feels like a classic. It feels like a classic.
Yes.
It feels like something from old
times. Yes. Could be in like a roda de samba, right? Like roda de choro, sorry. Like where the old musicians go there to play and we just go there to watch, right?
Yeah, for us in Brazil that have this very lively, it's a tradition that people have, even if it's not our day to day, even if it's something that comes from the 40s, it's still there. You would go to a bar and people will be playing that. So especially for the people in Brazil, it's very present. And for the people not from Brazil, not with that historic memory, it will be just something different and new.
Yes. And this is something that also we try to do with the line, the entire piece, but like showing Brazil in a very natural way, not having to use our elements as caricatures of Brazil. We want to use things that were natural for us as Brazilian. That
not
could be
stereotypes. Not stereotypes.
Yes. And not trying to show and also show something new for people from other countries that's very natural, in particular from São Paulo and from 40s and from Brazil, right?
And since it has that roots in the Baroque and early jazz, even anybody who's not from Brazil will listen and will have some familiarity with that.
Cool. This is cool.
If you listen to the melodies that the clarinet plays and stuff, it can evoke something like Dixieland jazz or something like that. Charleston, perhaps,
Yes. Then, after that, we have Melancolia. I don't know how to say that with an American accent. Melancolia. I don't know.
Melancholy. There's a feature film with that name, I think.
Yeah, but it's written in Portuguese, so it's Melancolia.
Melancolia.
Yes, but okay. That's the moment where
it's in purpose. It's in purpose that it's in Portuguese.
Yes, of course. We have Pedro, and we have Rosa, and we have Melancolia. And then we have this moment where Pedro doesn't find the yellow flowers anymore, so he cannot give this flower to Rosa anymore, and then everybody become sad, right, because of this moment that it's unexpected and it's out of their routine, right?
Yes, I think that what we did there, it would be like a second part or maybe a fourth part of the line Chorinho theme. So it's like if you just go so deep into that repetition and that routine, you will end up there. It's where it will take you,
Perfect.
It's what comes. It's predictable. So we built it in a kind of predictable way, and we simply take away the elements, the rhythmic and the elements that make it more lively. So if it was bittersweet and we take off the sweet, we're left with the bitter.
This is perfect. Yeah, this is perfect.
That's a recipe.
Amazing. And then after that, we have this moment where Pedro finally thinks that maybe there is a new way to go and find the last yellow flower to then finally declare his love for Rosa, and it's on the uphill, right, the up the top of the corner of the mountain. And then there is this moment of a little bit of hope, a little bit of like excitement, and then what did you prepare for us?
Yeah, I think this is one of my favorite tracks, actually. This is the first moment of rupture. This is the first time where we change our minds and we say maybe we try to do it differently. And so when we were talking in the beginning of how we're going to translate that thing of doing it differently into music, right? So we think of how they did it differently, because there was the Baroque thing with all the formulas and all that, and then suddenly jazz comes along and breaks down all of those rules, and people would play out of the beat or with different chords and different notes and try different things, and the freedom is what happens. So this is the first time that Pedro experiences freedom, and we built into the song that so first what we have, instead of the chorinho, we go with something that feels like Bach, which is something like a Baroque song, but it's played with piano in a way that sounds more like jazz. So it's played with piano and flute. So we have the flute is the musician of the chorinho, which represents Pedro, and the piano is something that represents jazz and represents the freedom and we have that playing this kind of Baroque melody, which just accents very hopeful, but suddenly it goes wrong, because if you have too much freedom and you don't know how to control, you can get hurt. And that's the concept there. And we just have a kind of a cartoonish fall where everything just falls down and decomposes, and it just breaks down all the hope that was building up. So we have a build up. Actually, on our first versions, that part took longer, and it felt even like we felt more of that build up, and then it break down. Now we still have the build up, but I remember it was longer.
Yes, and
so also, we build up, and then we just turn everything break down.
And I remember you sent me like plenty of versions with just the piano and the I think it was the violin together. I remember that was a lot of different arrangements with a lot of instruments, and in the end we just had like the flute, I think, and the piano, right?
Yes.
Or the clarinet. I don't know which instrument was that. But it was very, very, very beautiful, I think. And then when we have this fall and everybody like gets a little bit like scared what's happening there, and then you have this cartoonish ending, helps people get like, okay, it's serious, but it's not that serious. No,
it's not that serious.
Yeah.
Or it's fun, but it's serious.
Yes, that's it. Yes.
It plays both ways, right? And also, this is one of the first points of the story where the music synchronizes with the movement. Yes. Because in the other places we have like more like of a loopy feeling, and here we have something that follows along. So that gives it that cartoonish feeling, but at the same time it ties you more into the action, into what's happening.
Cool. Then we have the Underworld, right?
The Underworld.
This song was like enigma, right? It was right, one of the things that we had no clue what to do in the beginning, right?
Yeah, I think it's a very challenging situation, because we are out of the world that we built in all the time. So all the time we created a universe, we placed the listener, the user in this universe, and now we just have to break down everything. So we just went with something completely different from anything that we had. Where first we had rhythm, we lose rhythm. Where we had acoustic instruments, we go with electronic instruments. Where we have more traditional harmonies, we'd go like with more chaotic atonal harmonies. And this is also a big collaboration of Gilson, because he had something that he had worked in a play that didn't work out in this theater play. And it was the seed of that, because it's that inferno, it's that hell feeling. So we said, well, let's just go with something that's hell, just terror. You're lost, you don't know where you are. It's like total despair.
Yes.
And at the same time, it's pretty dreamlike. It's dreamlike, but in a nightmarish way.
Yeah, but then there is this moment that it's hell, but then Pedro like finally like lose the flower, and then he has to grab for his life, and then he realized that he has to do the thing himself. He doesn't have to have a flower to talk to her, and he has the power to go up and do whatever he has to do. And then he begins to like climb the rope, and then we have this build up that you guys like plug in this hell, right?
Yes. This was like, I think if we think of the whole Underworld part, it's like a story within a story. It's a whole different. It has all the moments right inside that micro thing. I mean, I don't remember how many minutes, but it's like 5 minutes perhaps, and you have all kinds of feelings built into that. You begin with this big despair, and then you begin to experience, let's try a bit of that, and there's some little sprinkles of joy, and things begin to feel better. And then suddenly, where he has to let go, it's like it gets dramatic and it gets sad. And then we have terror also, again, with that very low sound, those bass sounds, synthesizer bass sounds we use when the whole
thing collapses, right?
The whole thing collapses, everything falls down. It's like a horror movie, that part. And then at the same time we have the big hope that he finally can be really free with his own movement. And we just wanted something so joyful to that part, right? And I remember we had a sample of the Beatles, A Day in the Life, doing that eternal ascension sound. It just keeps going up, and you never know how long you will go up. It just goes up. And we also used a lot of some more pop references. There, I think we used a little bit of Coldplay as a reference, with more heroic music, with strings and like the violin and the cello go like ten, ten, ten. So you feel like it's an adventure. It's kind of Indiana Jones, maybe, perhaps.
Yeah, totally.
And it's your way of getting out of that hell and going back, at least into somewhere.
and that's this whole sequence is the only part when we have no voiceover, right? It's all like sound design, sound effects, like VFX sound effects, sorry, and the soundtrack. So it's the moment that the sound really creates the mood for and tells the story, right?
Yes.
Cool.
It tells this different story than was being told all the time. That's
yes.
It's like the line and the underground,
and it's like actually physically hidden, this story, right? Exactly, you have to crawl to see this story. So it's interesting that everything changed, right? And everything is different from what you were used to in the last minute.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Cool. And then we have the return with the little, I don't know if it's a clarinet or a flute or just one.
It's a clarinet. It's actually a breakdown of the line theme again. It's like we take the essentials, the most romantic elements there, the things that are more basic. We take the rhythm, we take the piano, we take the embellishments out, and we have just this, it's almost like a human voice feeling. I think it's supposed to be something very simple and very intimate.
And I remember that the first time you sent us, because to implement on Unity, sometimes you sent like all the tracks separately for us, so we could like play there with the mixing. And then I heard just this clarinet, and I was like, oh my god, this is so beautiful. This could be just one song alone. And then it was on the return, and it was very, very cool.
It's definitely it's a less is more moment.
Yes. And then we have the finale, the moment that they finally meet, and then everything goes well. If you never saw the line, sorry, I gave you a spoiler. But we have to talk that about.
Line has a happy ending. Okay, I said it. There, I said it. Yes, I think that's a moment where we just take that's the opposite. Instead of taking the line theme and breaking it down into what's minimal, we do the opposite. We have the same theme and we add up stuff to it. We add up strings and we add up bells and make it grow more. We have harp and stuff that makes it more orchestral and more epic and more happy and more joyous and glorious. I mean, it's the same theme, but it's dressed in a different way. It's cool. Like a party dress for it.
It's in English is arrangement the same word or no?
Yeah,
it's
arrangement.
A completely different arrangement, and it feels like another song, but it's cool because it's a short piece. But it's like the same mindset of a feature film, that you have one theme and you have many different arrangements to use in different moments, right?
Yes, it's the concept of the leitmotif. We actually explored that a lot there. It's called leitmotif when they repeat the same theme. And I think it's you're right, it's short, but it's kind of on purpose. It gives you that feeling of, I wish I had some more.
Yes.
Like that craving more.
Yes, which is perfect, right, for an experience like that. And then we just have like the ending, right? The music, the Once Upon a Time reprise for the
we cannot
credits.
Spoil here. We are not saying the spoiler here, but that's the highlight of the whole experience. It's when the magic really happens, and you already had the happy ending. So what can be more than happy ending? Go to the experience.
Then this is the spoiler that we are not going to give.
We're not going to give that spoiler.
Good. But yeah, it's something more that you don't expect and delivers.
Yes. And it's based on it's on that same frame, the same way we open it, we're closing it. So we have the familiarity of going back kind of into your reality. The portal going in and the portal going out.
Yeah.
Yes. We could have called it Portal actually.
Yes.
It's actually called Once Upon a Time Reprise because it's a a longer version of the same song.
Yes.
And because it's what we're used for the credits as well. And I think it really worked well. It worked well both in the storytelling sense that we wanted. It worked well in the frame in and out thing that we wanted. And it worked well as a credit feeling of fade out.
Yeah, and it's interesting because also we have in the beginning the photo album with no photos because they were all like they are not there anymore. And then in the ending, in the credits, you also can maybe see something that is related to that. Right? And to finish, there is another song that was in the middle of it that is the music number 4 called Realejo.
Yes.
No, but I was waiting because all of these songs is the one that you created. But this one is a special song that I think we can also talk a little bit about it, right?
Yes, very important to talk about it. It's called Realejo. I don't know how you would say Realejo. Realejo is the instrument.
We translated in the narration as crank organ.
Yeah, we call it a crank organ, which is something that you will find in parks of old times. I think they have it all over the world. It's based in Italy. It's something that it's not really an instrument. It's kind of more like a gigantic music box, all made of wood, and usually has this little parrot on top, and it will draw the luck for people who go see it, and it always amuses children. I think it was made to amuse children. I think it's pretty much what it was made for. Yes. And we found out in Brazil this is this very traditional thing that it's performed or played by families, just one family all over Brazil. They have like this tradition of doing that. It's like almost a lost art, and they're trying to preserve that. And you have this instrument, this wooden instrument with wooden flutes inside. It's really a crank organ made of wood, so it's a very wooden sound. It sounds like many flutes and kind of like a toy, and it's kind of out of tune, and the rhythm depends on how fast you crank it, so it's completely out of control. And we actually it plays already songs that are built into that. So we had to choose to find a song that would work with our experience. We didn't have so many choices. We didn't have that many options when we went to record the actual player. And we ended up with the Blue Danúbio, which is very traditional waltz. It's something like, it's not Brazilian at all. I mean, it's just like something completely universal. And it's like, it's just to show this could be anywhere, I mean.
Yeah, and right? I think thinking about being inside the experience, it's a moment that you do that, and at least here in Brazil, that everybody relates with the crank organ. I think everybody wanted to someday play this instrument, this crazy weird instrument, and then you give the user like this opportunity, and then it's funny because if you stop it like stops in a very like clunky way, and then it goes on again like whoop, and it's like being a child playing a little bit inside the experience and giving this opportunity. I think like some of those devices that you have in the line like evoke this feeling of playing a little bit, and this one is like the climax in this sense.
And this is actually, it's very interesting because it's multi-layered. We actually have the actual recording of the crank, of the organ, of the song, but we also have another layer which we just add up sound design to make the feeling of that crank even more cranky and more tactile. And we also add a little bit of synthesized organ just to make it with the melody a little bit more clear, but it has very, very, very smooth and subtle. You would, if I don't tell you, don't notice. You're not supposed to notice.
Yes.
We mix it so you don't listen to that. You just feel it. If I take it off, it's a whole different thing. It loses kind of the presence. This is something that happens a lot when we do stuff for movies or for animation, because we have to do something larger, because when we see it on the screen, even on VR, it will get smaller. So we have to add more elements and stuff so it gets to the proper proportion.
And I think even in our memories, we always remember it better than it is in real life, right? So we have to fill this gap somehow, right?
Yes.
You need an artist to do that. And I remember that when we were talking about that, and we were like considering maybe me consider like you making like, and you said all the time, no, we have to find these guys no matter where, and bring them to the studio. And then when you recorded, you began to send me videos on WhatsApp and said, look, man, look what we found. And I was like, come on, this is amazing.
It was really amazing. We should have done a documentary of that because it's actually it's a whole cultural statement. The Realejo, the crank organ.
Yes.
And I think part of the line has this mission, like you said, of rescuing some part of hidden or forgotten Brazil music and customs and feelings. And that's a big part of that. So we actually, it's a part of that rescue.
This is cool, man. So now we already talked about all the song. Is there any other thing that you want to highlight or remember from your work and your side of making this piece?
My main memory is just how amazingly fluid everything felt all the time. Even though we had lots of challenges, it was my first VR work. It was my first work with you guys, with Arvori. It was. I mean, we didn't have like a film where you make the music and you see the film. So we were working with lots of unknown variables. But at the same time, it felt, it all flowed so easily. We all talked and everything flowed super easily. All the concepts and the sketches and the amazing, delicious way of working with you guys and with you, Laga, it was precious all the time. The experience was marvelous.
No, it was the same. For us, it was a big honor. Like I've been like always watching and listening your work since everything you did, like with Tito dos Pássaros, the Boy in the World, the Boy in the World, the feature film that was nominated for an Oscar. So it was a true blast and an honor to have you in the project, and also becoming friends during this process, because it was so nice, right? Like it was so. I think it's this kind of process that you see that someone brings something that you would never be able to do, and then everything grows together, and it's amazing. It's really cool.
I'm just really thankful, really.
Cool, man. So I think that's it. I think we are very also proud to have these tunes finally available for everyone.
Yeah, we thought of that even from the beginning, right? We say, we have to do it, and we would be with no time and being prepared for Venice and then being prepared for Emmy and all that high jet set life.
It's almost like a side job inside the same project, right? Making an album out of it, but we really wanted to make it available because we're super proud of these songs, and everybody that sees the experience talks about it. So it was almost like we had to do that, you know.
Yes, I'm very thankful.
Cool, man. So I hope we have a next job together soon. Let's see what we are putting on to begin a new project. And I hope it was an interesting... For me, if I was a user, I always love these stories about soundtracks. I think for me, film is about music, you know, like the feeling of and the soul of... I even said that in the Venice speech. Like the music and the song is the soul of the experience, I think. You know, it's very interesting to have this more in-depth like talk about how the songs were created. It was really cool.
Yes, I appreciate. It's always great to have opportunities to talk about music, because usually it can sometimes just be on the background and people don't have that highlight. So it's very good to be able to take part in that.
Cool.
Thank you, and I hope everybody enjoys.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Bye bye.